Hi, and welcome to the channel. So, if you've been watching the stocks or X or any other social media lately, you'll probably have noticed that the Republican group is in an all out battle against Netflix. Netflix stock, which was typically always done well, has faced some sharp decline over the last months, continuing to this month, mostly because of some comments from staff and materials around transgender ideology towards children. Let's get into it. We'll start off with a person who seems to be leading this effort against Netflix, Elon Musk. A name I'm sure most of you already know, but if not, let me give you a quick summary. Have you heard of Tesla, SpaceX, X, formerly known as Twitter, XAI, Neuralink, the Boring Company, or Starlink? That's right. It's reported that he's the CEO or majority holding in all of these companies. Next, we'll talk about Elon Musk's posting on X regarding Netflix. The first one I thought was really interesting. It actually specifically talks about how the Netflix has a high contribution rate towards the Democratic Party. 100% contribution towards the Democratic Party. I thought that was really interesting. One, I didn't know you could have a company that could swing 100% one way without exclusion people. And that seemed very odd to me, especially hearing that this is a group that seems to be supportive of transgenders, which supposedly is a group that has been excluded. Um, so it almost appears out of the gate that the Netflix company is 100% democratic and supports those only ideologies, and those are seem to be the only people that work there. That's fascinating to me. I don't know. I didn't even know you could ever have 100%. I thought most companies would, you might have a skew. Like I think you can see Plantar's like 30% Democratic and like 60% it looks like Republican, but a mix, some kind of a mix, right? Maybe not 100%, but some kind of mix. That to me, the 100%, that's questionable. I would be curious to know how they managed to hire exclusively only 100% people who would support one side of the political aisle. That's very interesting. Um, the next one he's talking about specifically like the Babysitters Club, which is another Netflix show that was really targeted towards transgenderism towards children, talking about shaming people for misgendering them, demanding the hospital staff treat him like a boy. Uh, Another example of transgenderism, I guess. The third one is the Trojan horse, which I thought was kind of a unique illustration because we all know the what do you want to call it, the theology or historical reference to the Trojan horse. Basically, how it was a group of soldiers who slipped inside the Trojan horse. It was offered as a gift to the enemies, supposedly as leaving, and then in the night of, they came out at night and then basically killed the guards, opened the gate, and the whole castle fell. In the same analogy, they're obviously putting in soldiers who support transgender woke agenda, and then he's showing kids, or supposedly your kids, if you read the text, welcoming the horse into the castle, right? So basically, the guys that this transgender woke agenda, using his words, is basically coming in as a Trojan horse, unaware, and then basically converting children or making them believe in more transgender ideology. So next we'll be talking about Netflix's response to this situation. I did do some checking on X and other sites. Netflix has chosen not to respond at all to the concerns raised by Musk or others. Others have tried to reach out to him, such as Variety and Fox, but none have received a response from Netflix. Netflix is still posting on X, however, not about the transgender indoctrination, just more about new movies and TV shows. Um, which I thought was interesting because as much attention as this is getting, I was surprised they wouldn't put out even some comment. I guess they don't feel they need to, which is kind of interesting to this extent. Um, what I was able to validate from this. So I did actually go on Netflix and take a look around because I do have a Netflix account, and I did see and I can confirm that these shows, the Baby Sister Club as well as the what is it called, Coquelimon, if I'm pronouncing that at all, Coquelimon, both do have TV series that do reside within the Netflix series. What do you call them? Kids section. So if you're familiar with Netflix, you have two different options. You can create a normal account like an adult account, or you can create like a kid account or a child account. The children's account or kids account is usually limited to only programmings that are acceptable for younger audiences. The adult account obviously has full range. So you can look at kid account, you can look at adult content, whatever, it doesn't matter. So these videos, sorry, slash TV series do live inside the kids section, which does kind of support what Elon Musk was saying. I did also do some additional review on the Babysitters Club. I thought it was really interesting to learn that this was originally created back in like 1986. for novels. I guess it went to 2000, and then they made a animated graphics in 2006 about this series because I guess it was so popular back then. Since then, Netflix, forgive the expression, indoctrinated it um, into their own series, which was back in 2020 to 2021, which is so far like 2 seasons with about 8 episodes each. The original did not have any transgender ideology at all. It was mostly focused on friendship, family growing, etc. When Netflix adapted it for their version, they did start to include in things like transgender representation, sensitivity, age appropriate ways, uh, drawing plays from normalization of trans experiences and angst, which I thought was really interesting because this is not the first time we've seen an old movie or old show been remade into modern times. They did this with other Hollywood movies, like what was that one that got a lot of hate recently? It was there was Snow White. So I think it was Disney tried to remake the old Snow White and try to include more, what is the words they're using, woke methodology or woke ideology in it, and it tanked. I mean, it tanked hard from all the reviews. I think Rotten Apple gave it like 1 out of 10 or something, and I think Disney basically pulled it right out of the almost the gate after they released it. So it's interesting to see that Hollywood cannot come up with any new ideas, so they're simply taking old ones and modifying them. It's kind of sad because the originals were the originals for a reason, and keeping the same name is literally just a cash grab, in my opinion. People know the name, people recognize the name, and they're trying to lure in audiences, but then it's not the same show. It's not based on the same principle. It's not even the same ideology. So that part alone, I feel, is a little misleading, obviously intentionally. And I have my own personal opinions on that. I think if you're going to create a show that carries similar characteristics, but you're going to change it, maybe even the fundamental story and the beliefs and everything, I think you should rename it. I don't think you should call it the same name that it was over 2 decades ago. That's my opinion. And then who would have any issue to complain, right? You create a new show, you call it the Dog Sitter Club. I'm making this up, right? It's not called the Babysitter Club. It's not a old name or children's book that people used to know from 20 years ago and relate to it being a certain genre of kind of an audience. It would be a new series. It would be something related to that new series and it would have its own standing. So I do feel there's a little deception there for sure. And trying to take an old movie that everybody knows and remaking it and calling it a new one, that does feel a little bad. The other show, Kamolan, I'm going to pronounce that wrong, I'm sure, uh, has also about 13 seasons, but there's only 3 episodes per season. And what I found really interesting about this one was it was actually really popular as a nursery rhyme and animated series, but it was primarily on YouTube. And it is targeting younger audiences like toddlers from ages like 0 to 4, which focuses on song numbers and colors. But it had nothing to do with transgender ideology or transgender, I guess you'd say, agendas until after Netflix got it. So I thought that was really interesting because it's still on YouTube, but I guess Netflix got rights to it and they've modified it in a way that allows them to change the content to be more explicit towards transgender characters and storylines and teachings, which again I find very deceptive. I mean, if it's not going to be about what the original is, then I don't think it should be called what the original is, or should be renamed in a way that doesn't sound misleading. I think again that's just poor representation, and I think there should be some accountability there. I get it's easier for Hollywood and Netflix, I'm sure, to get more sales. I get that. I mean, everyone's always looking for an easy way out. But I mean, this just, this has obviously caused conflict, and it's not the first time. And yet it keeps happening. So I don't know. That's just my opinion. I know I kind of went off on a tangent there, but I think you should call something that's not the original something different than what it is. That's just my opinion. And this other one called Cocomelon, I just want to go back on track now. I apologize. It does have teachings, transgender teachings, as well as some grooming and indoctrination they were talking about throughout the show. Um, and it's just overall, it seems to be targeted a little less than the other show, The Babysitter Club. Obviously, it's targeting a younger audience, but it's more of a lighter way, I guess you'd say, of introduction to transgender ideologies and genres and such. Um, I kind of jumped the boat on this one. I I kind of said that I think that I feel like if Netflix is going to have shows that do offer different types of, what do you want to call them, shows, yeah, let's say that, different types of shows, that they should maybe be called out differently, right? So when you look at a TV show or a movie, there's always those little kind of like categories or keyword sections, right? And this is something I don't think I've ever seen done anywhere. If people are getting this upset about the transgender ideology and such, which I can understand. I see both sides. I can get that. Then maybe the transgender part should be another keyword, right? So if you're going to watch this content, it has the tag next to it says transgender, right? And I think that's fair. I think, a lot of people, especially parents, should be at least responsible enough to review what their children are watching. And if their children see that there's a tag on there that says transgender and they don't believe in that belief or have different beliefs, they're the parents. They should be able to have those beliefs. And then they should be able to say, hey, this one has something that I don't agree with. Then I'm not going to have them watch it. And that seems totally reasonable to me. So I'm kind of surprised, as much of an issue this is, that no one else has thought of that. Putting a tag on it seems like the easiest way to solve this problem, in my opinion. That's just my 2 cents. I don't know. Next, I want to talk about the Netflix employees. There were two employees that made some rather ill said words on social media. One was Fadia Kader, who's a director, and I'm kind of surprised at that level that someone would make this kind of mistake and say this stuff. But basically, he made a statement that he said Charlie Kirk died for Christ. Uh, Again, I would have expected a comment like this maybe from some sort of a lower level employee, but a director, that's kind of shocking. Um, and Fadia was born in Kuwait to a Palestinian family, so I'll just throw that out there for some context. Hamish Steely, he's also a creator. He was accused of mocking Charlie Kirk with the assassination. I will also call out that he is a queer and a known full supporter of the LGBTQ plus community. So again, just some information for context regarding those two folks, to why maybe they may have made those comments. Neither Netflix nor the individuals have made any kind of apology, and neither have they been fired or punished, as no information has been given from Netflix, but it is still reported they are working there. Next, we'll go over the Netflix stock. So if you look in the upper left, you'll see this is the last 5 days of reporting. And as you can see, there's been a steady decline over the last 5 days, most likely due to the fact that what do you want to call this Netflix cancellation group led by Elon Musk is going on and trying to get as many people to cancel their subscription as possible. Now, I will say this. If you look at the bottom right corner, which is the year to date, you'll see that Netflix has had its shares of ups and downs. So it could be related to this. It might not be. I'm sure there's some impact in there. But Netflix has never been a small company, especially I'd say in the last, 4 years, 4 to 5 years maybe. And if you look at their stock overall, it does have its ups and downs periodically. So to say 100% this is all impacted because of Elon Musk, I don't know. I can't read that far into these numbers. But I can tell you based on the trajectory and everything else, at least over the last 5 days, it is a continued downturn, and we'll see how much further it goes down. But again, if you look at Netflix stock as a whole overall, it usually is a very strong stock. It has continued to grow year after year after year. So I guess we'll have to just watch and see what happens as this continues. My final thoughts are this. I understand the frustration that Elon Musk is having, specifically around Netflix and their move towards transgender ideology, specifically towards children. I know he's had issues with that in his past based on previous postings, especially one of his kids. And I get that, and I could share that concern. I think cancellation of Netflix is a little much, but let me explain why. One, I do feel that the simple acceptability of transgender ideology, if that is a group that someone has an interest in watching, could be called out as a keyword or create a separate section for it, right? So maybe you have normal programming for adults, kids, and maybe a separate section, like a third section called transgenderism, or LGBTQ2 plus. Forgive me, I don't know all the letters specifically. And that section, or include it in the adult section because adult does have pretty wide range, and then just specifically call it a keyword for transgenderism within that movie or that series. I think that would be a kind of an easy way to overcome this. And again, I'm kind of surprised no one else has actually thought of this. I am a little surprised Netflix hasn't chosen to respond at all. I mean, there are people, parents specifically, who have serious concerns regarding this and how it's affecting their kids. Um, to me, I have a soft spot when you have kids. I have a kid. So anyone poking at my child or possibly doing anything that could affect them either mentally or development or whatever, I could definitely get behind Elon Musk's opinion on being very frustrated and upset with. And I think honestly, Netflix owes Musk or even everyone, every parent, everyone who pays for Netflix, I think a response as to this is the direction we're going. This is why we feel this way. Here's how we can maybe make everybody happy. I think Netflix owes them that. And the idea of including this again in the Babysitters Club, which is kind of a remake but turned transgender, and the Cocomelon, if I'm pronouncing that at all correct, which was another show that was not transgender but again was being turned transgender. I think that's bad taste as well. I mean, you're taking something that people have known and what it's about and the ideology, and then using the same name and spinning it for a different set of beliefs or agenda. And yeah, I feel that's pretty ill intent. Unfortunately, it's not just Netflix doing this. So I can't say again, it's 100% Netflix should be canceled for this when others are doing it as well. So again, I think keywords and maybe even a specific section for transgenderism, I think would be fine within Netflix. Netflix already has other wide variety of other nationalities and other different beliefs in there, which I think is kind of a good thing about Netflix. But I think recognizing that some people are sensitive to certain topics, I think is a great idea, and maybe calling those out. And that's fair. I think that's fair. The next part I would say is the employees. Really unfortunate about Farid Kerer and Hamish Stili, and I apologize if I'm pronouncing their names incorrect, especially Farid Kerer. Director level making public statements from a company, I'm shocked he hasn't been fired. Most companies would have zero tolerance for that. I mean, you when you get to that kind of level, you speak for the company. Most lower level employees, if they posted something, they would be fired almost instantly. I mean, they have. Look on social media. So to say this kind of stuff and have no repercussions again by Netflix, unfortunately, I can see that giving more power to Elon Musk, right? I mean, if Netflix would have came out and said, hey, we do not condone this type of behavior, we do recognize free speech, but we feel this was a bit too far, Farid Kadar and Hamish Stili do apologize or something to that effect, or have been terminated if they refuse to apologize. I mean, in the end, these people represent the company. And I think they should do good to make it appear as if they support company values. And unfortunately, if the company does nothing, then it looks like the company values is support of killing people for their speech, which again is kind of funny to me when you look at the transgender ideology where they consider themselves a minority and they're tired of being treated differently and being prosecuted or being talked down to or insulted, and yet they would support the shooting or killing of someone who thinks differently than them. That to me is just a double-edged sword that Netflix would just basically impale themselves with. So I think that was poor management on their part. I think their HR team should probably get a quick little review on how they should handle large companies, because that was unfortunately, I think, very poorly handled. Their stock, we'll see. I think it'll bounce back. I truly, unfortunately, I think most things in life are going to have a hit there and there. And there's no definite evidence that Elon Musk's verbiage on X or anywhere else or with other people has had that much of an impact. So honestly, I think we're just going to have to wait and see. Other than that, that's all I have, guys, for you today. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.